Hey everyone, I'm K.A. Will,
And I'm Gabby.
and on this episode of our marriage journey, we're going to be talking about whether or not we think we were ready for marriage when we got married. And we're going to be we're going to touch on that and some other subjects along the way. So, do you think you were ready to be a wife?
So yeah. So like I said last episode, check it out. I didn't realize how selfish I am and how selfless you have to be married or to have a good partnership with your spouse.
So, being selfish is, if you want to get married and you're selfish, maybe people not ready. That's not a good quality to have, I should say, if you're trying to get married.
No one's perfect. You know, you get, well, when you first get married, you've never done it before, right? So, but yeah, I didn't realize how selfish I am.
Was?
Debatable. I'm just kidding. Do I still take your food and drink your food? Debatable.
Oh boy.
So yeah, so it was a eye-opening experience, and I was like questioning if I don't know if I should be here. Like if I don't have those perfect qualities before getting married, should I continue being married, or what's gonna happen to it? Yeah. What about you?
I think in my mind, I thought I was ready.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. Because, like we said last episode, I'm firstborn. There was a good stretch in my childhood where my mom was a single mom. So I had to learn, the responsibilities of the house, the responsibilities of being a man, and all those type of things pretty early, or not only early, but I would say it was like you either get it now or you're gonna crash and burn type deal. So I think because of that, like I watched my mom raise other children and take care of stuff around the house. And whether I was there or whether my brother was there or if we weren't there, my mom made sure she got it done.
Right.
So I think in that aspect, I think I thought I was ready.
Yeah.
But then, marriage is not always what you think it is. You may have an idea in your mind like, oh, this is what marriage is like.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that's exactly how it's going to go.
Right.
So, yeah, I was ready. I guess I was ready for, the part where it was my responsibility to take care of stuff around the house, make sure you feel loved. But I definitely wasn't ready for conflict. Conflict was definitely one of the areas where I definitely needed work and wasn't ready for.
This guy.
So, do you have any advice though that you would give people like that are thinking about getting married or they're in a serious relationship right now? What advice would you give them if they're thinking about marriage?
So I would say, or be ready. I know nothing. I mean, really, what can prepare you? But be ready to clash.
Mm-hmm.
Ready for those cultures to clash. Cause
Right.
I know. I thought West Indian household, we good. Everything is gonna mesh. Not true. So be ready for that. Expect it. Don't not expect conflict. Did I say that? Exactly, I said it right. Not expect conflict.
You got it.
In other words, expect conflict.
Right.
Expect clashing, but if you both are willing to work through it, like if you have that willingness, I mean, that will take you far, much further than the angry times, much further than the fights, much further than the differences. So that's why I say be willing to fight through that.
Yeah, definitely. I would say definitely know your deal breakers. Know your deal breakers. Like, what is it about a potential spouse is just not acceptable? Like, you don't accept it in the relationship. You don't accept it. You're not gonna accept it in the marriage. So know what your deal breakers are. Know what qualities you want in a person when you're in a serious relationship or thinking about marriage. Those things are important because, like you said, even with the whole clashing, disagreements and things that you don't agree on, you may respond one way and your spouse may respond to those situations a different way. And can you deal with the way they respond? You already know you can deal with the way you respond because you've been doing it that way your whole life. But can you now deal with another person in your personal space responding any way they want to respond? That's a really important question to ask yourself.
Kareem, what were your deal breakers?
Or my deal breakers?
Because apparently I ain't got none of them because we here. But what were your deal breakers?
That's a good question. For me, definitely, I couldn't be with someone that doesn't have a relationship with the Lord, with God. That is definitely number one. Like, it's just not going to work without God. Because I wouldn't want you to be with me. I wouldn't want anyone to be with me if I didn't have some type of good working or working on progress relationship with the Lord, knowing who He is, knowing about His love, because ultimately knowing about that love, experiencing God's love is what takes marriage far as well, because now you have to share that same bond, you're sharing that same love with your spouse. So that was definitely one thing. Second thing, deal breaker. I cannot deal with a whole lot of talking. Just to be honest, like, I'm not talking about someone who gossips. That's not what I mean. But just there are some people who have to be talking all the time. I'm definitely not one of those people.
We know.
Yeah, I need some quiet. I need some, because when someone else is in my personal space and they're talking all the time, I can't hear myself think. And I like to hear myself think because, I'm a thinker. I don't want to, you've said it to me plenty of times, like, you felt like either I was ignoring you or you felt like I wasn't responding when really I was just taking my time. I was thinking before I respond. Because I don't want to say the first thing that pops into my head, because oftentimes that's not the best thing to say.
That's a BC talk. You need that.
So, right. So I have learned that I cannot say the first thing that comes to my mind. So I like to take time to think about my answer.
Right.
So yeah, that was definitely a deal breaker for me. Someone that just talks all the time. The other thing is I like quality conversations, like conversations that have a meaning. They have some depth to them.
Substance.
Yeah, some substance. Like what we're doing now. This I can talk about all day, but just someone who is just, I can't do that. Sorry. So, so that was a deal breaker for me. Yeah.
There was something that you said when we talked about advice. We wanted to work. I wanted to go back to that because I thought of an advice. Be ready for growth, because there will be growth, not just with each other and what your marriage looks like, but separately and as individuals. So be ready for growth and be ready to love the core person and then whoever they evolve to, right? One pastor said, your spouse is your standard of beauty. So your standard of beauty loses his hair, that's your new standard of beauty of sexiness. If they gain 50 pounds, that's your new standard. Just kidding, but yeah, from not just physical, but emotionally and from the psychologically growing in character and personality traits too. So yeah, be ready for growth, and it's beautiful. It is beautiful. It is hard because any type of growth, there's growing pains, but it is worth it. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because what's funny is, now that you say that, yes, we would say, hey, this is our advice. Make sure you know what qualities you like, what qualities you dislike. Definitely do that. But one thing I've learned with marriage, based on what you just said, is you find qualities in your spouse that you didn't know you needed. Yeah. Like,
expound on that.
yeah, like, for instance, I may be thinking, okay, as long as she loves God and she doesn't talk too much, I can pretty much deal with everything else. Right?
Okay.
But then the Lord is going to say something, well, you need somebody that is going to be there for you to complain about work, or you need somebody to be there when you just need some emotional or mental, psychological support.
Yeah.
You need somebody, basically a shoulder to lean on.
Right.
And I may not have been thinking about any of those things. That's just an example.
Right.
Or you may find out that your spouse has a really good talent. You're like, man, I never knew that was attractive to me before. You see what I mean? Like, you don't know these things until you really get to know that person, until you get married. And like you said, as time goes on, there's going to be more and more things that you're going to grow to love about your spouse,
Right.
love about each other. Because you're like, man, I didn't know you had these qualities, or I'm still learning who you are. And as you said, as your spouse develops, they're still becoming, who God wants them to be. They're still growing as a person. They're still discovering new things about themselves, and you get to discover it together.
Right.
So
That has been a wonderful experience so far.
yes,
Yeah.
I have to agree. Definitely have to agree. One of the things that I would say too is you may want to ask your significant other, your boyfriend or girlfriend, what they expect out of a marriage. Because it's one thing to know what you expect, which is good. You should know that. You should be coming to terms with what you like or dislike, those kind of things like we said before.
Right.
But it's also good to know from their perspective, hey, what are you expecting out of me, or what are you expecting a marriage to look like?
Those expectations, man. Because when you have unset expectations that you want your spouse to meet, that they don't know they're supposed to meet, it can cause division. You can feel like enemies. So yeah, I agree. It's definitely verbalizing them, making it plain. If you gotta do some digging within yourself, then do it. But see, like, what are your expectations? Because that's great to share, so that you can both hear each other and say, okay, this is kind of what they think, and then of course, it's gonna evolve, it's gonna change, but at least you guys can have everything on the table.
Yeah.
Be at least aware of what those expectations are.
Yeah, that what you said is so true, because expectations, like you said, we have an idea in our minds, and again, it goes back to maybe the culture we grew up with, in our parents' household,
Right.
and we expect certain things because that's normal to us.
Right.
So, what's normal to me might not be normal to you. So that brings me to another point. One of the things that I struggled with, and I'm still growing in, is realizing that my spouse doesn't think and feel exactly like me. So again, what's normal to me and my expectations and what I think and feel, their perspective, your perspective, I should say, could be totally different. And the only way, like you just said, for us to know that for sure. It's to verbalize it and not assume and not just expect.
Right. So what you said, simple thing that we're not the same, so we're not gonna. We can't expect the same things out of each other. Very simple.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that we're not the same, but for some reason, it's just a source of headache. Still, even though technically we know we're not the same, but still, unpacking that and say, what makes us different?
Mm.
Where did you come from?
Right.
What was your culture?
Right.
What was your what did you do in elementary school? What did you learn in high school or middle school? So yeah, like what kind of things shaped you?
Yeah.
And that's different from the things that shaped me. It's a lifetime of learning. We're not saying that you should this should be done before, but be aware.
Yeah.
The big
Definitely.
be aware.
Yeah. Definitely be aware. You're right. Be aware. Have those conversations before marriage so that you have an idea, because you get to know the person, but then you get to see like where the boundaries are as well. Because
Right.
based on what they say, you have to know where your boundaries are, and based on what you say, they have to know what their boundaries are as far as a relationship and what qualities you want. Something you said, man, really stirred up something to me. As far as us growing, sometimes, say I'm growing, you're growing at the same time, you may feel as if after you get married, oh, this person is changing on me. This is not the same person that, when we first got married, it was all good. We were having fun. We didn't have no problems. But now that we've been married a while, this person, oh, you trying to show me who you really are, huh? You trying to change on me. You trying to do the switcheroo. But to be quite honest, it's not always that. It's just growth.
Right.
And growth looks different for different people. So, I say this, I've said this before, the two of us could be sitting right here and something happen. It could be something good, something bad. It could make us laugh or not. Even though we're both sitting right here in the same space at the same time, we react differently.
Right.
And my experience is totally different from Gabby's experience, even though we were here at the same time. It happened to the both of us.
Right.
So you have to keep those things in mind with marriage as well. Growth just looks different on different people.
Right.
So,
In perspective, like you said, looking at the same thing and just get something different out of it, different meaning to each person. So we can go on and on with this subject.
yeah, the whole growing thing, because I don't want to stretch it out, but it really is. Watch this point. You're growing, I'm growing, and a lot of times I hear people say, well, we're growing apart. It's not that. If you really love that person, and if you two really have that bond, whether they grow in their own way and you grow in your own way, that shouldn't affect or make you say, oh, we're growing apart. It's more, you should be observing and loving the fact that you're getting to experience and see your loved one grow in the way that they are. So some of that could be insecurity, where you feel as though, oh, they trying to be big and bad, or they trying to be different. Now you're different. It could be insecurities on your part. It could be fear. It could be something from a past relationship that makes you feel like, oh, some red flags are going up. Because one of the things I realized along with that is, as soon as someone sees that their significant other, spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, is acting a little different, and when I say different, I don't mean in a bad way, just different from what you're used to.
Okay.
And I think that's where we have the issue. This is not how I'm used to you acting. What are you doing? Why is this different? And there's something in us that just makes it uncomfortable.
Right.
But I think if we get past that point, we will grow to see that we're more secure. We've bonded even more because we've allowed the space for that person to grow, and we've accepted them. They still accept you.
Right.
But too many times I've seen or heard when people start thinking about, oh, maybe this is not the right person.
Right.
Just like that. I mean, somebody growing and all of a sudden they're not the right person for you. Well, you don't want somebody to grow. That means you want somebody that is not mature enough or open enough to grow into a bigger and better person.
Right.
That says something about you if you have an issue with that.
Counterpoint.
Mm-hmm.
What if they're growing negative?
No,
What if
actually.
they're not becoming? Okay, what if instead of growth and advancement,
Mm-hmm.
maybe they're receding? Maybe they're becoming a worse person
Mm-hmm.
and having and there are red flags.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying that that's not possible.
Could that be growing apart?
Yeah, I'm not saying that that's not possible. It's very well possible that somebody could be going back into old habits or going down a road that you don't want to see them go down and
Right.
turning into a negative person. Sure, that can happen. Yeah, that's a tough one as far as what do you do. Again, you have to know your limits. That's why I said earlier about boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
What are your limits in dealing with a person like that? Because honestly, if someone goes past your boundary or your limit, you're not going to be happy. All right? Now, I'm not talking about, again, I have to be clear, I'm not talking about if somebody slips up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about if, they're growing and you just don't like the way they're growing. That's not what I mean. If this person is just like gung-ho, you see them spiraling.
Mm-hmm.
It could be, first of all, have a conversation.
Yeah.
Have a conversation. It could be that they're really going through something and you're just seeing the effects of what they're going through.
Right.
You're just seeing, the stuff before the dust settles. You don't really know what the core issue is.
Right.
So maybe just have a conversation first. Hey, is something going on with you? Because I
Yeah.
notice you're acting different.
Right.
You're doing all this kind of stuff. I don't know what you're doing. Your attitude is different. Your face is different.
Right.
How you carry yourself is different. And let them know you're sincerely concerned
Right.
out of love.
No, I agree. Communication, but it's hard to put those feelings into words, to be vulnerable, to say, yeah, I'm going through something. I've been choose whatever,
Mm-hmm.
choose whatever horrible thing. So yeah, it's gonna take maturity. It's gonna take building a marriage where it's safe to be you. It's safe to be
Yes.
you. It's okay to be you. You're accepted for who you are, no matter who you are.
Yeah. And I guess I'll close with saying this. Unless you have something else, we can keep going. But sincerely, what if whatever your spouse is going through is something to build both of you? Like, you can see the effects of how they're acting and be like, I don't know what's going on with him, but he need to get it together. But at the same time, like we said, if you come to them lovingly, have that conversation, hey, what's going on? And you get to the root of it, you may realize that, they're going through it because it's something that is actually going to build you two closer together. Not only are they going to grow, but you're going to grow from it as well. So
Sometimes I'd be asking the Lord, why? Why is it through things that appear negative, that feel bad, that cause pain?
mm-hmm.
Why? Why does that have to be the fertilizer for growth? Can't we just have growth with good things?
Call it, what is it again? You called it the what?
Fertilizer
So the bad and negative things.
can sometimes act as a fertilizer for growth. And
Go ahead, girl.
And I don't be appreciating that. Sometimes
never-
I don't appreciate
It doesn't always feel good.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
But in my years of life so far, which are few, I've learned that that's how it is sometimes. But when things do settle, and when you do see the light at the end of the tunnel, you're like, man, that probably would not have happened.
Right,
Unless
if we went
this.
through.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Unless you went through it.
that. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
man, this, we can go on forever with this one.
Yeah, everybody. I think we're gonna end it right here. Thank you so much for spending this time with us, learning about our culture personally in our home and our marriage. Again, like, share, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. We appreciate you guys, and we hope that this helps. See you guys.